Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this event. I was expecting some male voice before me, somehow to blend only female speakers. My talk will be on some activities that we conducted over the years with the focus on gender mainstreaming. And I should say that our commission, I just briefly introduce you to our commission. Our commission is an interstate organization comprised of 5 ministers of water in 5 Central Asian countries. And the main function of the commission is define the regional water policy, and at operational level is basically to do water allocation, to approve, control, and monitor and implement water allocation, transboundary water allocation in Amudarya and Sirdarya. Should I speak slower? Can you hear me? Sorry.
No, you can continue.
Okay. So the commission was established in 1992, immediately after the collapse of the Soviet Union, to continue transboundary water management in the region. And it has 5 executive bodies. And in this slide, you can see some gender disaggregated data on the staff of the 4 executive bodies of this commission, Basin Water Organization, Amudarya, Sirdarya, Secretariat, and our Scientific Information Center. So you can see basically that it's in most of this organization, especially in operating, implementing agencies, BVOs, mostly male workers. In our center, we have almost 40% of female employees, and in Secretariat, unfortunately, this is old data. Till very recently, we had the head of Secretariat of our commission female, and it was changed the last year. So we had a quite good female representative in the executive bodies of the commission. And so in addition to water allocation issue, what we do as a Scientific Information Center, we do research, collect and analyze water-related data, provide trainings, and do different networking and international cooperation activities. And how we start dealing with the gender-related issues. In our case, it was not kind of fashion catchy word. We were forced to start looking at these issues during our projects and during our activities on the ground. It started in late 90s when we were implementing different projects at regional scale. And you can see the pictures from this time. So we would come across to the female everywhere, going to the field, doing the field work, and communicating with at the water user association level, and even in the basin level. At that time, male migration was very, very intensive, and we would see that mostly in our meetings, females come. And what was striking, especially for males who were dealing with the project management in our case, that the different attitude and different behavior of the female and male. That you can see at the picture below that female was very speaking out. And it was very unusual case. Usually in Eastern part of the world, you expect that female will be silently seeking and not voicing up her concerns. But at that case, they was so much overwhelmed with the problems that they had to face on water management, on agriculture management in the absence of men, or if in the older men who were still in the countries dealing with the agriculture related activities, and they had to speak up. And they would not afraid even talk when the local administration was present. So it was really the time when the women wanted to change things. And they didn't have enough education on dealing with the farming activities. They did not have enough knowledge how to deal with the organizational and financial issues, but they could speak up. And at that case, we thought that we need to help. We need to do something to help these women and to address their problems, because they didn't want to be involved in water management, to be honest. They were just put in the position that they have to do it to feed their kids and their families in the absence of men. The another thing, so we brought this problem from the bottom to the level of our commission. And I have to say that members of our commission was very, very welcoming. And they decided that they will be dealing with this issue. They could hear the problems, and they were very open in helping us to set up first event on gender and water issues in Central Asia with the help from Asian Development Bank. It was in 2004. And we start working at the different level, at the top level with the decision makers, at intermediate level with the different international partners and researchers, and also dealing with the farmers and water user associations. And that time we established a network of gender and water in Central Asia. And we did first study of the water and gender related issues in Fergana region of Uzbekistan. And then we replicated this with the help from Global Water Partnership in all other Central Asian countries and Caucasus. And very briefly, I want to show you the methodology on what issues we're looking at that time. And I think it's very relevant till now. Listening what Nazila was saying is basically the similar set of questions about the different access and control of water resources and other resources and receive benefits. Even if we saw that women might have access to resource, sometimes they cannot manage the final results of using it. Various accesses to information and training and other socially valuable opportunities as education, advisory services, etc. And gender restriction in participation in public activities. And as I said, here we could not see the big difference. On the contrary, we could see very active participation of women and different volume of work that was already mentioned by Nazila. And here's some numbers about the different access and control over land and water resources and profits. You can see that mostly formal ownership, land tenure and water rights access owned by the male, and very few women were the leading farms themselves at that time. Here you can see the different shares of the family budget. And again, you see, and these numbers are still relevant, that most income comes from the private slots or subsidiary farming. As Nazila mentioned, it's a kitchen, gardening, and where mostly women are engaged. And another picture, quite similar to what I mentioned in other research, that we have the ratio that household activities mostly done by women, and they're not calculated in the employment, in the revenue brought into the family. And here you can see also the, for me, very interesting picture that we see that allocation of the family budget 71% of respondents said that it's mainly men who made final decision, but still on other additional questions, the answer was that yes, he does make final decision, but draft decision is made by female. So it's again kind of hidden shadow decision makers are females. And we had the different trainings at different levels for different level participants. And as mentioned, we established Gender and Water in Central Asia network to raise awareness and to build the capacity on gender-related issues. At that time, even the word gender was not used so much, but again, all decision makers and the members of our commission was very welcoming. And what lessons we learned? I think the main lesson was that we should not bring into our context and the region and the country some new catchy words without not knowing the real needs and local dynamics. In our case, we looked at the problems that we have and we responded. So it was not the run for the new concept that can attract the money from the international community or the government. Another thing that we thought it's very important, it's to focus on social relations, not on women, not on gender-only relations, but on social relations. Jennifer also mentioned how it's important to look at the relationships, how the men conceive the changing their own behavior when female is present. We're always talking about the relationship. And I think it's very important from the very beginning to start talking to men and women. We have to understand on both sides. And we never had the training only for women. We always had the mixed group of people, and we had the several trainers of men. And actually we had the two project component managers who were dealing with the gender issues. There was male specialists. And I think it's a very nice thing that we are not discussing our ladies' things and our ladies' problems, that we're discussing the social relations. And it's completely different attitude in the room that when we discuss, and we can see also the difference in different age and in different social groups. We cannot use the block stereotype that the women and men. It can be very different dynamic and different social groups. And we should also avoid generalization that everything in Central Asia like this, or all women like this. We saw that it's very different. It's very different in Kyrgyzstan, in Tajikistan, in Uzbekistan. It can be different in different villages. So I would urge not to use these stereotypic statements in all cases, but look at the different specific examples. Another thing that we found very important is be responsible for actions. When we did our thirst assessment and talk with the women and men, and we talk with the different actors, and they were raising these concerns, and they were expecting that we come back and address those concerns. So really, when you go to the field, you raise some promises and you have to be ready somehow to address them. So it's a very big responsibility, I would say. And finally, we have to look at the gender statistics. Completely agree with Nazila that it can be absolutely different that we have in the formal and informal studies. But I found that in Kyrgyzstan, for example, we have very good gender statistics even for the villages and districts level. It's a bit different for Uzbekistan when we have some gender statistic at the national level, and it's less so at the rayon and oblast levels. But we have to find the ways to collect our own data and use it and to focus on these numbers. For me, when we just started these activities like 20 years ago, what was buying for me that we have the first specialist on gender, the lady who was economist. And she convinced me with the numbers. She did not focus on my emotions as a woman, but she convinced me in numbers. She said, she gave the chart showing how women and men were affected in economic terms after the gaining independence. So you know that biologically, physiologically, women and men react differently on different crisis situations. And she saw the figures that at that time, men were most vulnerable, and the numbers of suicide among the men. And she said, we have to save the men, not the women. We have to help them. And that's why we have to look at the problems from a different angles. My kind of last message would be that when we talk about the gender equality, we have to really think about the equal valuing by society of both the similarities and the differences between women and men, and the different roles that they can play. And we start discussing how to translate gender needs and challenges into meaningful and sustainable action. After all this discussion, I heard from for example, from the members of our commission, what we can do. And when I was asking the gender specialist what I can do, they gave me very simple steps to follow. Start using gender neutral language, start using gender aggregated statistics. So something that you can do, start listening for the same project, the opinion of the men and women. So I think our focus has to be on meaningful action that all we in our jobs can do in order to transform our society. Thank you.